The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Bryan for Breaking Down Security. This week is part 2 of our discussion with Joe Gray. What you'll hear coming up after this little short intro is him continuing his discussion on how people participating at CTFs will often go out of their way to hand over additional information that they found during the event that may or may not count towards their point count, and the magnanimousness of all of the attendees by trying to do what's right and helpful to help locate maybe missing persons or different objectives that may or may not have gotten them points. In effect, they just want to help. They don't necessarily care about winning. They just want to be helpful and help, which is something that's really great. Secondly, we start talking about search algorithms and how using different search engines will often give you different results, especially if you're trying to do OSINT in non-U.S. countries. Sometimes you'll find things on a Russian Yandex search engine that you won't find in Google or Bing. So we talk a little bit about that. We also, before we go, I bring up the topic of gamification. There's a lot of states in May of 2021 that are creating lotteries and incentives and motivations to people who may be resistant to getting vaccinated for their COVID vaccinations. And if you're in that that camp where why should I go get vaccinated? Well, you may win $1 million if you get a shot. Your name gets put into a lottery, especially in the state of Ohio, to win $1 million. I think they also did that in Colorado. I seem to remember that Washington State, where I live, was doing tickets to sporting events, discounts to sporting events or other events, and we talk about that in the larger sense where we've talked in the past with people like Masha Sadova, Mod Masha on Twitter, about finding ways to motivate people. So if you report a phish, you get a $5 Starbucks gift card or something, make people feel good, to motivate them potentially, or to reward them for behavior that is good, positive reinforcement in this case. So in this respect, trying to motivate or enhance the experience to make it so that people get something out of it in this case. So it's a really great show. I hope you enjoy listening to Joe and Ms. Berlin and Mr. Betcher and I discuss that. Also, one last thing before we go, shout out to our threat intelligence folks in our Slack channel. They've been adding a lot of great content to ensure that things that they come across can also be shared openly and freely. I'd like to thank one of our moderators, Paige and Sec, another one of our users, Exempt, and Riot, for all their links to things like credential harvesters. Also, these are great links if you wanted to analyze things like malware or how IOCs are being generated by these things. So it's a great discussion inside the Threat Intel channel on our Slack channel. You'll find that information at the end of the show and on how to join. So have a great week.
I've heard of situations when we could go to conferences in person. I think I heard it from Adrian over at Trace Labs that even after the competition had ended, they had already awarded the winners, the scoreboard was closed. There were still people hanging outside that area, still looking for the missing people, because they had basically they had developed the addiction. And trust me, I know all about that addiction, but they had just continued even after competition, and they approached them and was like, hey, we've got all this extra intelligence. We don't want points. We just want to give it to you. So that is possible. And there has to be a certain level of discipline following what I call the Kenny Rogers theory. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, when to walk away and when to run. So, from the gambler, you sometimes hit really heavy situations and scenarios that can be uh, a bit heavy for you in general. Um, but you've got to be able to divorce yourself from this missing person or this engagement or this task to be able to move on, whether that be based on time and billable hours, your own mental health, or any other reason associated with it. But realistically, I mean, my thumb rule is like in competition, if I don't find anything on a particular person for more than 20 minutes, I tend to move on to another person. Uh, in a real life investigation, I might step away, work on something else for a little while, and then come back and restructure my data, possibly change some of my search parameters or my search locations. But, with things out there like OSINT framework that has a whole swath of tools. I have the wiki.theoscension.com. There are several start pages for it. You've got the Bellingcat toolkit, the Berkeley OSINT protocol, the RAND OSINT documentation. iIntelligence has an OSINT handbook. You've got all these things out there in addition to various discords and slacks like my discord, the OSINTION's discord. I think that's discord.theoscension.com. And then you've got like Searchlight, Bellingcat has one, Tracelabs has their Slack. Just so many different places you can go and look and ask for additional information. It may be that you might not have been aware of a particular resource. Something else that sometimes helps would be, okay, I've been doing this investigation using a VPN, having me drop out in Switzerland or Sweden, right? It may make more sense to have it drop me out in Australia or France or even the United States. It may even make sense to hop off a VPN altogether as part of doing so. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with that. You could use different search engines. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket, especially if you're looking for someone in a country outside of where you live. You definitely want to check and find out what the popular social media accounts are in that area, what the popular search engines are in that area. If they use a different language in that area, you probably want to be doing some stuff with Translate so that whenever you put those search parameters in, it's going to weigh on the algorithm differently. And when I say the algorithm, that would be the algorithm for any search engine, not the algorithm for a particular one.
Right. Okay. So I don't know. I think I didn't put my timer on, but I think we're getting close to the end here. So in the interests of discussion, Mr. Betcher, do you have any kind of questions or anything you'd like to ask? I know you've been a little quiet tonight.
I'm always quiet, man. No, no, I don't know enough about OSINT to ask intelligent questions. But when you say the algorithm, I think of the internet in general, like we're sort of assigned our beliefs. In other words,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely true. But if you want to test out something with the algorithms, something you could do, like I've tested this using Proton VPN. And what I did was I first went to google.com and I searched for football scores. And then I moved from google.com to google.au. And then the results were a little bit different, but not much. Then I hopped on the VPN and had it drop me off in Australia. And I did the same thing for google.com.au and google.com. And I got completely different results.
Sure.
Right. And then I hopped off the VPN and I got the same results as I did initially. So, with the algorithms, because they are someone's intellectual property and they're never going to open source the actual algorithms, they'll open source or allow you to set up like a search appliance so that they will index your data for you and allow you to use their algorithms. They'll never give you the actual algorithm. It's always a guessing game in terms of what inputs lie with things. So knowing that you are more on the blue team invested, like the incident response, malware, threat intelligence perspective of things, a good way to think of this would be if you're investigating a threat actor and you believe this threat actor to come from insert country here, and you find out that people in that country, let's just use Russia. I'm using Russia not because everybody blames Russia for everything. There's only really one big consulting firm that blames Russia for everything, and there's another one that blames China. But with Russia, using that one as an example, it makes it really easy. Instead of using Google for your searches, it may make more sense to use Yandex or some of the other Russian specific stuff. It may make sense that before you actually do your search parameters to actually hop in and use something like Google Translate or Babelfish or another translation tool. Write what you want to ask, the query in English, translate it into their language, copy and paste it into that search engine, and you're probably going to get different results that may actually be more relevant to what you are actually looking for. And then granted, like if you use Yandex, there's a good chance your results are going to come back in Russian, but there are browser extensions and plugins that you can use to literally right click and Google Translate will translate the whole page for you. And there's others besides Google. So that would be some of the applicability. With searches and algorithms, your location, your language, the user agent string, and your browser, as well as your operating system, which both of those things go into your user agent string, that plays a pretty significant role on it, whether you are mobile or on a computer. That will also play into it. Any cookies that you have that the browser can access can also influence that. But then what I call the 2-year-old theory is also in effect here as well. You ask a 2-year-old, what do you want for lunch? I want baked octopus with chicken tartare, right? They'll tell you some off the wall stuff. Whereas
Ooh,
if you ask
that
a 2,
chicken tartare.
oh yeah, it's
favorite.
great. Mine too. I don't understand. Like every time I eat it, I get a tummy ache though. I don't get it.
Weird.
I just popped some pills before.
Yeah, it might be from a bad vendor or it could be a bad vintage. I don't know. Maybe I need to try like Blue Jay tartare or something. But anyway, with a 2-year-old, you ask them what they want for lunch, they're going to tell you something off the wall. Whereas if you say, would you like a tuna sandwich or a peanut butter sandwich? You might get some crazy answer like tuna with refried beans or peanut butter and alligator tail, but the results are closer to what you are looking for. And that is highly applicable to search engines. That's why Google Dorking and the Google Hacking Database is so powerful, because it allows you to ask the 2-year-old, if you will, in the search engine, a question in a language that it's more apt to understand, for one. And for two, you are limiting the possibilities of the results. So that's a lot of what plays into the algorithm. I wish I knew the algorithm start to finish on it, but those are things that I have tinkered with and played with. Like I've got within my browser, in addition to like some privacy plugins and things like Hunchly and Zotero, I also have things to be able to change my user agent string. I have my VPNs. I have multiple VPNs that I can pick from, some being commercial VPNs, some being things that I'm running myself out of the cloud. The user agent string thing can be kind of important. Sometimes I just hop on my phone and do the same search and see what the results are. And it could vary. Doing it from browser to browser, you do something in Chrome, Safari, Edge, Brave, or even Tor, any of those, the results can be different. And that's partially because of the user agent string, but it also kind of plays into how the browsers broker the connections themselves as well.
Right on. Okay.
I kind of feel like I should create a course on that now.
I could definitely see the need for that. I mean, just a whole section based on your browsers and what would be the optimal, string for that, or, strings that you should discuss on that. So you're good.
I'm actually looking at extending right now, of the 6 available courses I have. The business and the people courses are 8 hours. The OPSEC is 6 hours. The introduction to OSINT, the search engines, and the image intelligence and OCR courses are all 4 hours. I think I might have to bump the OPSEC course up to 8 hours and I think I've got enough stuff and ideas with what I just mentioned to add 2 hours to it.
Well, feel free to take some time and write that down.
I will totally do it, and I will totally throw up a coupon code and slam some in the show's Patreon as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So the various sections in your book, you have a section on offensive social engineering, which of course is correct. And then you have a section on defending against social engineering. Chapter 12, Mr. Betcher, Ms. Berlin, you might be interested in producing threat intelligence. And, being able to create attribution is hard. So, I'm sure that's the largest chapter in the book on, creating proper attribution for these things. But,
Actually, you'd be surprised. That's actually one of the shorter chapters, because really what I'm talking about in that one is I start out saying attribution is art, science, and philosophy. Anyone who tells you it's a precise science is probably full of it.
Probably religion too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I didn't put that in there, but it may not be too late to make the change. But with that being said, I talk about there's a lot of snake oil with it. You can get things from feeds, but assume that you received a phish. Here's a few websites that you could go to. And I stuck with like all free stuff throughout the book. The only paid tool that I even showed, if I recall correctly, was Hunchly. But in that regard, I actually talked about here's how you extract stuff. Here, I even gave a script. Hey, here's how you parse like IP addresses and domains and email addresses out of like the source of an email. But then I talked through things like Threat Miner, Threat Crowd, Alien Vault, OTX, and then basically tell you, you can say, this is the context of the phish, and this is the information it's from. You can block it, but it's not going to do that much good for you in the long term. Especially when we're talking about things like business email compromise. So it's a relatively short chapter. It's more of, hey, OSINT can be used for this. There are some things to do with it, but don't focus so much on the IOCs, because true threat intelligence has more to do with the TTPs than the IOCs.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Okay.
I really wanted to call that section the defense against the dark arts, but I was afraid I would get sued by the estate of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, you probably would. God knows she doesn't have enough money or whatever. Anyway, so does anybody have any other questions? I think we can let this go. We had a discussion about carrot and stick interactions. That was more of an observation I had that I wanted to talk to Joe about. But I think we got. Go ahead.
Well, with the stick of the carrot, I mean, that's actually something that's very important in industry. I mean, I can totally give you some ideas on that, because it ties directly in with some of what goes on in chapter 10 of the book for the proactive defense techniques, specifically awareness programs and training curricula.
Okay. Okay. Hang on a second. So, as a segue to our previous discussion on social engineering, I have noticed in the past few weeks where certain states have been trying to get people vaccinated by offering incentives like, get a shot, or get a shot, have a free beer, or, appearance. I'm sorry, I did not see Ohio's. It was a lottery thing. Well, no, it's a lottery thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. You have a chance to win $1 million.
There you go. So yeah, 5 people are going to get $1 million.
Or free college for like 4-year college, like scholarship.
Yeah, but then you have to go to like Ohio State. Ew. I look forward to your hate mail, the Ohio State Universityans, ites, Versions, whatever. Anyway, so the up here in Seattle, they're giving out Sounders tickets at a discount, or even free, or Mariners tickets if you're going to get a COVID vaccination shot. And they've got mobile stations there at the stadiums when you go to the games as an incentive to, while you're going in to have a game, why don't you get stuck in the arm or whatever. People in InfoSec, and we've talked to people like Masha Sadova about gamification of your security programs, rewarding people if they send you phishing. Does this look like a fish? No, it wasn't a fish, but here's a $5 gift card from Starbucks. We're seeing a lot more of this carrot stick thing where it's like, you don't want to get stuck with the needle, but here's something that's going to encourage you to get that. how do we motivate people in a similar method? In terms of, this is social engineering. What does it take to get a shot? Is it a bar of chocolate for a password? Is it a Sounders ticket for a shot in the arm? Is it patch your systems? Here's a ticket to a movie. I mean, how do we create that awareness in such a way? And also the following question is, if we don't give people things for doing things, what happens if we do it, inconsistently?
So first and foremost, consistency is key, but the stick and the carrot can be very useful. You don't want to say, oh, well, here's your W-2, congrats, you're getting a raise, or you've been fired, or any of the stuff that we see coming around LinkedIn from time to time. You don't want to do any of that.
Right.
My recommendations, especially within chapter 10 of the book, would be things like, I am a huge fan of gamification, and pre-COVID, I'd had several conversations with Masha, I think it's Source Boston, if I recall correctly, about how to gamify awareness. But some of the things that I found to be more effective than others would be role-based training. So, not naming names, I'm not going to hate on any company in specific, but a lot of companies out there, they have a one-size-fits-all training approach. It's like everybody takes this training. And that's cool to a degree, but then when we look at things like the executives, accounting, HR, even the security team, they all face different challenges. And because of OSINT and the ability for me to go hop on LinkedIn or hop on hunter.io and get email addresses, or just go to the company website even, I can find out who's an accountant or who works in InfoSec or whatever, and I could craft a fish to get through that. So having role-specific training can be very important to help with that. But on the side of gamification, within the training itself, I'm not a huge fan of saying, oh, contact security with anything that you have. That's typically not a good idea. I did a test for that at a previous position many years ago. I think it was around the time that we first met, Bryan. And I had someone outside of my direct organization within the company send an email out about, hey, we're testing things. We need you to contact security. They didn't put a phone number. They didn't specify what kind of security. They just said security. Out of 60 people working within my portion of the organization, I got 2 phone calls. You know who got most of them? The gate guard.
Well, that's security, isn't it?
Yeah. They contacted security. So within training, I'm a firm advocate that you need to define, if you receive a fish, this is exactly what we want you to do. Think back to your time in the Navy, Bryan. You remember those stupid, I say stupid, but those bomb threat worksheets that are next to every single phone that the Navy owns.
Yep.
As an industry, if we did something similar to that and we said, okay, you receive a fish, this is what we want you to do. We either want you to forward it to phishing at and set that up, or we want you to forward it as an attachment so that the source and the headers are preserved. Do that. If you have a tool that you can just click report, do it. If you want them to trash it, do it. You have people who are not technology and security professionals who at the spur of the moment need to make a decision. And if you let them know, you convey your expectations, you convey what to do and why it's that way, because that's something in the training and awareness world we don't really focus a lot on. We have people saying, I can hack any password on the planet, blah, 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 blah. But we don't explain why we use 16 character passwords or why the typefaces are the way they are. We don't show anything with like NTLM going back in the day to show, the 404 EE at the end of a hash for if a password wasn't long enough. So we don't explain that. And a lot of the people, they just take it as browbeating because we say, thou shalt not do this. And we don't really explain why. For a lot of the people, they might not even understand or comprehend the why, but if we just take the time to try to explain the why, they're more apt to take that in. Going a step further, though, we also need to define what happens if someone falls victim to a phish. They click the phish, they input information, they forward the email, whatever. And And that's going to be dependent upon each individual organization's incident response plan. In some cases, they may want them to literally just unplug the power from the wall and power the machine down. They may want them to unplug the network cable. They may want them to execute a script. There's so many things that they could do. And I can't say definitively for one organization or another, this is what you want to do. But one thing that I did in that position many years ago is I coordinated to get all of the network cables running from the wall into people's computers to be yellow. It was the only place we used yellow cable. So I told them, hey, you click a fish, something's acting up with your computer, unplug the yellow cable. I don't care if you unplug it from the wall or from the computer, just unplug it. And if you give people those distinct steps, people know how to unplug something from power and they know how to unplug a telephone cable, basically. RJ45 being similar to RJ11 and how you plug it in and out. So give them the steps for that. But taking it a step further and getting into gamification, encourage people to report things. So it would be a defined phone number or a defined person or team to talk to with instructions on how to get to their office. And say, okay, every month we are going to have a raffle for this item of value, a $20, a $20 gift card to Amazon, Starbucks, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just something of value. People will rat out their own parents to try to win something. You do have to worry about people that may go and specifically seek out ways to get more phishing emails to report them. But the way that you actually pick the winner, you don't have to disclose every bit of that. You can just say, keep reporting and you'll be entered every month or something like that. Not like one entry per submission, because someone will go and find a way to get on a phishing mailing list. Right. But do that, whether it's by calling the phishing hotline, 555 FISH or PISH or whatever you're capable of doing. Have something memorable that people can contact and say, hey, this looks a little weird. Can you come take a look? Or can you talk me through it? Or can you take remote control of my machine to take a look? That's the kind of stuff that really works within gamification, because you're encouraging them to take a vested interest in improving the security posture of your organization. And you're explaining why, as opposed to just beating them over the head, which as security people, I'm just as guilty as the next person, but we do tend to do that a lot. But taking it that step further and say, hey, that's what I appreciate about you. You're welcome for some more Letterkenny there. And say, hey, because you took a role in helping us to secure the organization, we want to help you out with something. It could be something as simple as like an hour paid time off. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. It could be an hour off. It could be a gift card. It could be a parking spot, park in an executive spot for a week or something. People will react to that. And as long as you stay true and good to your colleagues and employees, you're good. But with that, you also need to run some simulations as well. And there's a variety of ways that you could do that, but obviously avoid things like, raises, layoffs, W-2s, that kind of stuff. Save that for your baiting attacks and QR codes in the break room and stuff like that. If you want to do like that kind of stuff, which that's discussed in one of the earlier portions of the book.
Okay. Very cool. Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with that. The other thing is sometimes you don't have the budget for that. So you've got to find some way to, justify that. And I think a couple of years ago, I met Masha at Source Seattle. She was talking and we had gotten to talk about that. And she was like, yeah, the biggest thing is sometimes you have to justify the budget for, $200, $300, $400 worth of, Starbucks cards or, whatever to be able to do those things. And it, it doesn't have to be a Starbucks card. It could be like, subscription to Seattle Chocolate, for instance, to get artisanal chocolate, or a cookie company like Pickney's cookies, like I sent Ms. Berlin, Mr. Butcher,
or even Krispy Kreme, because speaking of COVID incentives, if you show your vaccination card at Krispy Kreme, you get free donuts.
Hello. Wait.
Like unlimited.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do what? Don't do what?
Show the COVID card. Fortunately, it didn't show up well.
We're an
I
audio.
actually,
We're an audio podcast. It's all good.
I know. I just didn't want to see it. Everybody around the area I live that actually got vaccinated, they were doing the whole selfie PSA thing. So when I got vaccinated, I was like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. So I took a picture of it and I moved it onto the computer. I did some edits to it, blurred some stuff out, overwrote it with some garbage information. And I was just about to share it on social media. And I was like, you know what? I need to analyze this. So I dropped it on a couple of image analysis websites that I use. And I was able to completely remove the blur and the overwrite. And based on the fact that it was a direct image that had been a direct image of something that had used a pin, I was able to pull all of my information out of it.
Oh, wow.
So I immediately deleted it and it did not get posted to social media.
So you mean the edits
Are
you
they
made where you
different?
wiped them out?
Yep.
Is the information on those different from state to state? Because mine's just like first name, last name, birthday, which is on my Twitter profile.
Mine has first name, last
there's-
name, date of birth, and the Pfizer lot numbers in this case, and where I got it from, and dates.
Yep, that's and because I'm all about my OPSEC,
Yeah.
I didn't want any of that stuff out there. Like the lot number that I had overwritten it with was 8675309. And if I recall correctly, I had overwritten it with the name of Bond, James Bond.
Easy easy there,
in that order. And the date of the vaccination was like February 31st. I think I put like 1914 or something. I put all kinds of bogus information, but I didn't want any of the real information getting out,
Right. Right. That makes sense.
It's kind of hard to beat the drum about OSINT and OPSEC and then have a failure of your own.
Right. Right. Especially since it's easy enough to blank out those fields and, make a print and then sell it for $20 at a bar or something. So people can look like they've gotten their vaccines. So yeah,
that gives me something to investigate local to me, because I'm sure they're doing that around here.
Hell yeah, I bet they are.
My strategy is to put as much on social media as possible, as it's too much to take in.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad strategy, but you want to make sure that
You
the
never
too much
know
stuff
what's
you're putting
real.
out there is false.
You never know who the real Amanda is.
Oh, don't make me start another investigation.
Oh no. She's got to consent to that investigation. No, I'm just kidding.
Which sock account can you find?
I can find the toe socks, the ankle socks, the business socks, and the tube
business
socks.
Wow, tube socks.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So you're still doing those OSINTION classes on the reg, even with your new job, you said, right?
Yep. So there's a lot of stuff about to change with the OSINTION. I think it's going to be for the better. So I am offering live courses primarily on the weekends, and occasionally I'll offer weeknight courses, typically from 6 to 9 or 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
The weekend courses, that's usually obviously sometimes I'll do 2 4-hour courses on a weekend. So it'll be like from 11 to 3 and from 3:30 or 4 until 7:30 or 8, something like that. And then sometimes through the week, I'll do one half of a people class on Tuesday and the second half on Wednesday, something like that. So I have those courses. Right now, I've got dates scheduled through June 5th. After June 5th, I'm working on the schedule, but I've got quite a few private engagements in July, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to do in July or August. But here's what's going on as well. I am having conversations with 2 in-person conferences about bringing training to those events in person. One would be in September. It would be a 1-day training. And then the other would be a 4-day training in October. So those are coming up. And right now I have selected the on-demand provider. I'm in the process of releasing 2 new courses altogether, but I'm also in the process of converting all of my live courses to on demand as well. The source material will be the same, but some of the anecdotes may be a little bit different because I won't feel as comfortable showing particular usernames that I may search for in a live class that's not recorded. But with that, that'll be coming. I'm hoping to get those released, if not at the beginning of June, in early June. So right now, the 6 courses, like I said earlier, I have the people OSINT and the business OSINT. The business OSINT is mostly an 8-hour deep dive into the passive reconnaissance of like red teaming. The people OSINT is primarily geared to trace labs, but I also do speak to, these are things that may be important if you work in law enforcement, or if you're this type of investigator or that type of investigator, and so on. There's the OPSEC course, which is kind of the yin to the yang of the people OSINT course. We talk about VPNs, we talk about data reduction, that kind of stuff. The accelerated intro class, that's basically getting your feet wet with what OSINT is, what OSINT isn't, how it plays with other forms of intelligence like image intelligence, financial intelligence, geospatial, that kind of stuff. Alternative and advanced search engines. So that's getting us familiar with search engines we may not be familiar with, as well as like specialized search engines. Like, you may not be aware of this, but there's a search engine called Halal Search that adherents of Islam use in the most holy month of Ramadan, so that they don't see any haram or forbidden material, things like that. And then the other one is the image intelligence, optical character recognition, and video analysis course. I'm about to release Introduction to OSINT Report Writing. That's going to be a 2-part course where we go through what makes a good report, how do you capture some stuff. Anyone who saw that survey that I put out on LinkedIn and Twitter asking about Wireshark or browser history or network logs or Burp Suite being an OSINT tool, it's all playing into that reporting course. At the end of the first half of that course, it's always going to be a 2-part course. At the end of the first half, I'm going to pass students some data in a variety of formats and ask them to write a report. I'll critique the report, and then the second half of the class will actually go through the submissions as well as my actual report for this fictional investigation. And then the other course that's about to release is going to be Securing the Collected Intelligence. And basically those 2 courses come about because a lot of times in OSINT, people only focus on collection and analysis. They don't think about, I've collected all this stuff, how do I secure it? Or how long do I retain it for? How do I destroy it? So the Securing the Intelligence Collected course is going to talk about encryption, like full disk, file level, integrity, so hashing, both linear hashing like MD5, SHA-256, as well as fuzzy hashing. And then it's going to get into like some file integrity monitoring type stuff as well. But I don't have a release date for either of those, but I will say that they are going to release on demand the same day that they are announced live. So going to be quite a few things with that.
Cool.
But stay tuned for details there.
Okay.
Yeah, the OSINTION's not going anywhere. If anything, the offerings might reduce a little bit live, but that's okay for now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I know the OSINTION Discord's quite active, so you can always ask your questions over there during the class. And I actually used your missing persons classes, some SANS certification for my GCIH. I was able to, find cheaper ways of re-upping and renewing my SANS certs without having to take a $7,000 class. So things like global OWASP training for 4 days, your OSINT training, comes with a certificate. So you can put that down as like, 8 hours of, OSINT training for your GCIH or your GWAP stuff. So yeah, it's a better and a more efficient way of your time and money to get your SANS cert recreds. So yeah,
that's definitely true. And in addition to that, I've also, that's what I was going to say. I've actually heard from people that CompTIA, EC Council, and ISC Squared have also accepted it. So the only major training provider that I've not heard of anyone attempting to use it for is SACO.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I think that's it. I think we should probably go because we're way over time. But it was excellent content. I appreciate the discussion, Joe. As always, you're always welcome to come back whenever maybe as we get closer to the book, or there's something of interest that in the news that has sparked your self. We would love to have you back on to talk about that. If people wanted to reach out to you in a OSINT type format to ask questions, how would they find you?
I'm on Twitter at C_3PJoe. The OSINTION is the OSINTION. I'm on LinkedIn. I think it's Joe Gray InfoSec, if I recall, would be the handle. And then, of course, Discord. My Discord handle is the same as it is for Twitter. And then if you want to join the Discord, just go to discord.theoscension.com. And you should be taken care of, unless Cloudflare is giving me problems from making the move. And I just tested it, and yes, Cloudflare is creating problems, but I know how to fix it very quickly.
Okay,
so
sounds good. So by the time people
be
listen to this, it should be good. Yeah,
that is correct.
All right. So Ms. Berlin, real quick, tell us what all you're doing involved with workshops and mental health and whatever.
Yeah. So giving our first live in-person training at Wild West Hacking Fest Way West in Reno in June, and that's
Nice.
doing hybrid, so you could do online or in person, whatever. The first
Cool.
one went crazy well.
Nice.
Like with the bots and everything that we had added to it, so that was fantastic. We did our first Hackers Who Paint session the
Very
other
nice.
night, and it went super cool. It was super cool.
Excellent.
We posted a bunch of those pictures to Twitter and stuff, and everybody was absolutely loved it. So we're definitely going to do another one of those.
Very cool.
Yeah, and thank you to HackerOne and the InfoSec Education Foundation for sponsoring it, because
No
that's
problem.
expensive. You're welcome.
We do what we can. We do what we can.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it, I think. I mean, I have
Cool.
other stuff going on, but it's not like ready yet.
Yep. And they can find you on Twitter at
InfoSister, INFOSYSTIR. It's been a long day.
All right.
Sorry.
No worries. It's 11:30. I know on the East Coast there, so I appreciate y'all staying
Yeah.
up. So, Mr. Betcher, real quick, tell us about LogMD and what you're doing.
Yeah, LogMD, the log malicious discovery tool. And yeah, I've been working on that. And yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, just write me a letter.
Yeah, handwritten in triplicate, notarized, and use next day mail. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah, cool. So InfoSec Education Foundation's our umbrella group that we use to run the podcast and our Patreon, our local Seattle-based meetups here called CSEC and CSEC East, which we're trying to get back into physical space. Probably in July, we'll do that. See if we can get something in a large park somewhere where people can yell at each other. We also have our our nonprofit to help educational and mental health benefits. So that's what we do at InfoSec Education Foundation, as well as InfoSec Camp Out, our conference that we're doing in August. So you can find more information on that by going to follow CSEC East for our meetup. InfoSec EduFo, I think, is the Twitter name for that. And you can follow me on Twitter at Bryan Brake, BRYAN BRAKE. And of course, the podcast is BrakeSec, BRAKESEC. We have a store if you want to help, the educational opportunities. We get a kickback for that. You can go to our website, breakingsecurity.com, BRAKEING security.com, and find our link to our store on TPub, where you can get a t-shirt. We'll have our t-shirts for InfoSec Camp Out on there very soon. We'll be working with somebody who can draw us a logo and make it all pretty for 2021. Like I said, we'll be doing probably a in-person only conference there, and it's going to be really small. I'd say probably less than 30 people, only because we don't want to make it too big. I know that's weird. I know, but it just, that's the way it's going to run this year at least. So, bring your camping gear if you decide you want to go. We're going to have the Eventbrite set up for that probably in the next couple of weeks, so you can go buy a ticket, and we'll be camping 2 miles from a Starbucks, so you can enjoy that. That's roughing it for me. So you can always come and hang out with us and talk and roast weenies and marshmallows and stuff if you want up here in the Seattle area. So we have a Slack. If you want to join us, you can send an invite to BreakSec or our email at bds.podcast@gmail.com and get an invite onto that. We have a social contract. We're moderated. I'd like to thank all of our moderators, David, Scott, Director of InfoSec, Megan, Amanda, Paige and Sec, who we had on a couple of weeks ago talking about education and the Linux supply chain issues. We had her on. It was an excellent show. You should go check that out and listen to it. And they're there to help out and help educate people. So we've got a career channel, blue team, red team channels, pen testing channels, threat intelligence channels. See if you're wanting to spread your knowledge about threat intelligence, or you've seen something weird at your own office. I know Riot, one of our members, has been putting out a lot of stuff having to do with cred harvester links and stuff. So if you've got issues with those, or they'll definitely put out some links there for you to help that's actionable. So come and join us and check that out. There is an OSINT channel. I wish it had more activity than it does, but it's one of those things that kind of goes in spurts. So, there is definitely an OSINT and SE channel. So yeah.
I got you. I'll make it really noisy for you.
Well, don't make it too noisy, but definitely feel free to put out whatever content you want to put on there, because I know we have a lot of people doing that. So all right, that was it for this week in Breaking Down Security. Have a great week. Be kind to one another. I see that light in that tunnel is getting much brighter, and it's not the train coming from the other direction, a la Wile E. Coyote. Keep your masks on if you can. Don't shun people who feel like they need to keep theirs on. Go get your vaccines if you have the opportunity, and because all of that's to help take care of yourself, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.